Hey there beautiful people! This video is in 3D. So, what's that mean? You can watch it in 3 dimensions. Almost like being in a movie theater. It's even better if you're using VR headsets or those fun 3D glasses with the red and blue lenses. This isn't a 180-degree video, but I'll be sharing some of those soon. For now, I hope you enjoy this 3D experience. Drop a comment below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. And with that, let's jump into the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm thrilled to take you on a journey through one of Thailand's most iconic and unique experiences, the floating markets. After asking some of my Thai friends about must-visit places for first-time travelers to Thailand, one suggestion kept coming up over and over: the floating markets. These vibrant, bustling markets are not only a feast for the senses, but also a window into Thailand's rich cultural history. Imagine gliding down narrow canals on a traditional wooden boat, surrounded by vendors selling fresh fruits, colorful desserts, and handcrafted goods, all from their boats. It's like stepping back in time to a world where waterways were the lifelines of daily life. But are these floating markets as authentic as they seem, or are they just another tourist attraction? Today, I'll take you on a personal exploration to find out. We're going to dive deep into what these markets are all about, how they've evolved over time, and why they're still worth a visit. So, grab your hat and sunscreen, because we're setting off on a floating market adventure that will give you a taste of Thailand's past and present. First impressions, gliding through the market on a boat. As I step into a small wooden boat, I can feel the excitement bubbling up inside me. The boat rocks gently as the boatman pushes off from the dock, and soon we're gliding smoothly down the canal. The water is calm, reflecting the morning sun, and the air is filled with the sounds of vendors calling out to potential buyers, the splash of oars, and the hum of conversation. The canal is narrow, lined on both sides by stalls overflowing with goods. There are vendors in boats, too, paddling up and down, their boats filled to the brim with everything from fresh coconuts and mangoes to steaming bowls of noodle soup. It's an explosion of color and sound, a market like no other I've ever seen. As we glide past the stalls, I'm struck by the sheer variety of things on offer. There are piles of ripe tropical fruits, intricately woven baskets, hand-carved wooden toys, and, of course, plenty of food. The aroma of grilled meats, fried snacks, and fresh herbs wafts through the air, making my mouth water. It's clear that the floating markets are as much about the experience as they are about the shopping. But beyond the sights and smells, what really stands out is the sense of history here. It's easy to imagine how these markets would have looked 100 years ago, when boats were the primary means of transport and trade. Today, many of the vendors are still using traditional methods, cooking over charcoal grills or displaying their goods in handmade baskets. It's a fascinating blend of old and new, where tradition meets the demands of modern tourism. Understanding the floating markets, a glimpse into the past. To truly appreciate the floating markets, it helps to understand a bit about their history. Before the construction of modern roads, Thailand's rivers and canals were the main arteries of the country. People traveled by boat, and trade naturally took place on the water. These water markets, or Talab Nam as they're known in Thai, were bustling centers of commerce where locals would come to buy and sell goods, exchange news, and socialize. The floating markets we see today are a continuation of this tradition, although they've evolved significantly. In the past, the markets were mostly about trading agricultural products, fruits, vegetables, rice, and other essentials. Today, while you can still find plenty of fresh produce, the markets have adapted to cater to tourists as well. You'll find souvenirs, ready-to-eat snacks, and even boat tours designed to give visitors a taste of this unique way of life. It's interesting to note that the term floating market might be a bit misleading. While the image of boats crowded with goods on the water is what most people think of, in reality, many of the markets today have more land-based stalls than boats. The boats that do remain are often moored along the banks, with vendors selling directly from their boats to customers on the shore. But even with these changes, the floating markets remain a vibrant and vital part of Thailand's cultural landscape. The evolution of floating markets, a blend of tradition and tourism. One question that often comes up is whether these floating markets are authentic or if they're just a tourist trap. The answer is a bit of both. While it's true that the markets have changed over the years, with some newer ones created specifically to attract tourists, many of the floating markets you'll visit have been around for decades, if not longer. They've simply evolved to meet the needs of today's visitors. For example, the Dam Non Saduak floating market, perhaps the most famous of all, is a major draw for international tourists. It's often crowded, and you'll find plenty of stalls selling souvenirs alongside traditional Thai foods. Some might argue that it's become too commercialized, but there's no denying the energy and excitement of the place. On the other hand, markets like Amphoa or Klong Lat Mayam, which are more popular with Thai locals, offer a slightly more laid-back experience. These markets may not have as many boats, but they still retain a strong sense of tradition and community. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is the focus on food. Thai people love to eat, and floating markets are a paradise for food lovers. From sweet treats made with coconut and palm sugar, to savory dishes like pad thai and grilled seafood, there's something for everyone. The markets are a great place to sample traditional Thai dishes, many of which are made from recipes passed down through generations. What to expect at the floating markets, a feast for the senses. So, what exactly can you expect when you visit a floating market? For one, you'll be surrounded by an incredible array of goods, most of which are locally produced. Whether you're looking for fresh fruit, handmade crafts, or just a tasty snack, you'll find it here. Practical tips for visiting the floating markets. Before you head out to explore the floating markets, here are some practical tips to ensure you have the best experience possible. 1. Arrive early. The markets are at their most lively in the morning, and it's also the best time to beat the heat and the crowds. Many markets open as early as 6 a.m., so try to arrive as soon as they open. 2. Choose your market wisely. If you're looking for a more authentic experience, consider visiting one of the lesser-known markets like Amphoa or Klong Lat Mayam. These markets are more popular with locals and offer a more traditional vibe. 3. Bring cash. Most vendors don't accept credit cards, so make sure you bring enough cash to cover your purchases. Small bills are best, as change can be hard to come by. 4. Dress comfortably. The markets can be hot and crowded, so wear light, breathable clothing and comfortable shoes. Don't forget your hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen. 5. Stay hydrated. It's easy to get dehydrated in the heat, especially if you're spending a lot of time on the water. Bring a bottle of water with you and take breaks in the shade when you need to. 6. Be respectful. The markets are busy places, and it's important to be mindful of the people around you. Don't block the walkways or crowd the boats, and always ask for permission before taking photos of vendors or their goods. 7. Try the local specialties. Don't be afraid to try something new. The markets are full of delicious and unusual foods that you might not find elsewhere. Ask the vendors for recommendations, or try a little bit of everything. 8. Take a guided tour. If you're unsure about navigating the markets on your own, consider booking a guided tour. Many tours include transportation, a boat ride, and a guide who can explain the history and culture of the markets. 9. Check the weather. The markets are mostly outdoors, so it's important to check the weather before you go. Rain can put a dam. Pour on the experience, and some markets may close if the weather is bad. Experiencing the floating markets. As the day progresses, the market becomes even more lively. The narrow canals fill with boats, and the air is thick with the smells of cooking food. The sounds of haggling, laughter, and chatter create a vibrant, bustling atmosphere that's infectious. It's easy to get caught up in the energy of the market, moving from stall to stall, sampling different foods, and chatting with the vendors. One of my favorite moments of the day is when we pull up alongside a boat selling fresh coconut ice cream. The vendor scoops the creamy, sweet treat into a coconut shell, tops it with peanuts and sticky rice, and hands it to me with a smile. It's the perfect refreshment on a hot day, and as I take my first bite, I can't help but marvel at the incredible variety of flavors and textures that Thailand has to offer. As we continue our journey, we pass a group of monks collecting alms from the vendors. It's a reminder that, despite the commercialization, the floating markets are still very much a part of the local community. The monks move from boat to boat, accepting offerings of food and money, while the vendors bow their heads in respect. It's a peaceful, almost spiritual moment that stands in contrast to the bustling activity of the market. Frequently asked questions: what you need to know. Before we wrap up our adventure, let's answer some of the most frequently asked questions about visiting the floating markets in Thailand. 1. Are floating markets open every day? Not all floating markets operate daily, so it's important to check the schedule before you go. Some are only open on weekends or specific days of the week. 2. How much time should I spend at a floating market? Plan to spend at least a few hours exploring the market. If you're taking a boat tour or want to try lots of different foods, you might want to spend half a day. 3. Are floating markets expensive? Prices at floating markets can vary, but generally, they're quite affordable. Food and souvenirs are usually reasonably priced, and haggling is common. 4. Can I take photos at the market? Yes, but be respectful. Ask for permission before taking close-up photos of people, and be mindful of the space around you. 5. Is it safe to eat the food at floating markets? Absolutely. The food is generally safe to eat, and vendors take pride in the quality of their offerings. Just make sure to choose stalls that look clean and busy. 6. How do I get to the floating markets? Most floating markets are accessible by car or bus from Bangkok. You can also book a guided tour that includes transportation. Why you should visit the floating markets. As the day comes to an end and we make our way back to the dock, I can't help but feel grateful for the experience. Visiting the floating markets is like stepping into another world, a world where tradition and modernity coexist in a beautiful, chaotic harmony. Whether you're here to shop, eat, or simply soak up the atmosphere, the floating markets offer something for everyone. If you're planning a trip to Thailand, I highly recommend adding a visit to one of the floating markets to your itinerary. It's a chance to experience a unique aspect of Thai culture, taste some incredible food, and create memories that will last a lifetime. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you've ever visited a floating market in Thailand, or if you're planning to, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories and see your photos. Until next time, happy exploring!